Karina Robinson at the Global Female Leaders in Berlin to talk about one of the most interesting, exciting and challenging issues of the day, which is environmental sustainability. And we've got one of the world's experts, Nicole de Paula, thank you very much for joining us, the CEO of the Global Health Asia Institute. The first question for you has got to be, how does the environment and health fit together?
Thank you so much for these questions. It's one of the, I believe, one of the most important topics that sometimes we miss out. We tend to see environmental problems as an isolated aspect of the agenda or something that we need to, something to be tackled in the future. And what we need to understand, the message that we're trying to convey here is that environmental change is impacting our health massively. And the example of air pollution that I gave this morning is one of the most emblematic ones that we can have. When you are in a city, and that's not only, for example, in the Far East, like in Delhi, Beijing, Bangkok. We have also London, who is since 2010 breaching the limits of air, of the quality of air pollution. So if you're going for a walk in the Hyde Park nowadays, it could never perceive this as a dangerous, and now it is. So that's something that people need to understand, that when you have no clean air, you are missing basically a human right and affecting your health massively. For example, the increase of chronic diseases, respiratory problems. We have problems with toxins, creating, probably causing cancer. So all of these connections that because of pollution, because of transformation change, or pollution of our oceans that contaminates our food, the whole impact in the food chain, for example, that we forget. So there's so many links that we are having because of the way we have been developing for decades, that we don't see that this could now undermine our health.
The Sustainable Development Goals, the UN's very well talked about Sustainable Development Goals. One of the things that has happened is there is this view that the developed countries have this attitude, well, actually Asia, the big problem now for the world is the environment, so we've already developed, and you need to develop differently, a very sort of condescending way of looking at it. What is the solution, though, to squaring the whole circle?
Great word, condescending. That's a very difficult topic, because for long years we have at the international arena this dichotomy between North and South, developed and developing countries fighting who should do something first. And I think this debate has to finish. We cannot. If everyone developed like the United States or Europe, it would need many planets, and everyone knows that there's no planet B. We need to cope with this planet. I know we have discussions of going to Mars, but for the moment we have this planet, right? And so it's something that developing countries, they will have to develop in a smarter way if they want to be sustainable. And that's something I think leaders in the developing country, they're understanding. And I think, for example, we mentioned China. There's a lot of problems in China. They have more than 1 billion people. But when you have power, you also gain some responsibility. So I think perhaps this the changing landscapes of power that we have nowadays. Multilateralism is also multipolar world with so many. We don't have only Europe or the United States telling what the rest of the world should do. So I think these other countries are gaining some conscience and raising awareness that this is something that without a clean environment, you cannot have healthy people. So that's definitely something that I think these countries are learning how to change.
How can we break down the silos? And I know this is a theme that you've developed over the years a lot. Break down the silos between things like environmental scientists, health scientists, tech, which surely has got to be part of the solution to the problems we're facing.
That's the question nowadays, I think, how to break the silos to find solutions for sustainability. It is essential, because so far we have been thinking fragmented ways. Even in the disciplinary mode, when you go to universities, you only do that. So I think that's very important that not only, universities are understanding that to really tackle problems of the 21st century, you would need new disciplines. And also what I said is transdisciplinarity, which means not only bringing other disciplines, but bringing other perspectives perspectives of local communities, making them participate in your projects, and co-developing and co-sharing, co-creating knowledge. And I think that's one of the key sources for solutions. One thing on the Sustainable Development Goals is that one attempt to break the silos, because the Sustainable Development Goals, we have 17, they're not perfect, but they are our best bet for sustainable development. And then when you see that health, they have so many impacts and synergies with others. You need clean water, for food, you need a better, you cannot get only intensive agriculture, you're going to probably have better, healthier ways to produce. Climate change affecting the way we produce food, the quality of food. Crops, for example, we have evidence now that some crops are losing protein, zinc, and even iron, and so this is changing the quality of our food. So all this, the SDGs are a great opportunity to make this development holistic, and I think business can be, they have, it's not that they can, they have to be a part of this. I heard that, there are studies from the UN Development Program saying there are $12 trillion of opportunities in terms of investments, and that's something that business cannot be out of this opportunity.
The last question is really about China, because you've slightly mentioned China, and I think China, if you tell us a bit more about what it's up to next year, but anything to do with the environment, it is not a national problem, it is a public good, it is between all the different countries. Should China actually be leading everything to do with the environment? Because right now the United States is certainly not doing that.
Well, that's the situation we are in. So one of the problems that we have is it's not a technical problem. We have a problem with governance, and that's what people usually forget. So to solve environmental crisis today is not only about the next technology or the best data, the other figure that will change. We need governance. We need structures that will allow this having good leadership, communication, and of course China cannot lead this problem. They will not lead alone. But they will probably, with the gaining power, they will probably have this more responsibility and the sense that they cannot ignore this certain question. There's definitely pressure, and we see one thing that gives me hope. And you have this movements of schools and school strikes, and the youth realizing that the false hopes that we were having before, saying sustainable development, but no one is doing much. So these kids now are changing the way the leadership. They are just basically asking kids, they're only asking adults to act like adults, and that's just a simple question, but it's not happening. So I think China definitely, if they want to become a global power, they will have to lead the agenda of sustainability.
Thank you very much, Nicole de Paula at the Global Female Leaders Summit.